hit the button.
Too late. Hit the button,
Oh,
and we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Admiral Murphy channel. Got with me right now. Oh shit, the microphone's already fallen. We're only like a second into this shit.
oh,
But yeah, I got with me right now Aramil
hello.
Galanodal. So he's gonna be chatting with us because I got a story that he was talking about to begin with. But first, I want to welcome everybody, give you a chance to come on in, say hi in the live chat. I know it has been quite a bit since I've live streamed. Part of that's just because of real life shit going on, and another part's because YouTube doesn't make it very friendly to new users to want to come on all the time and stream. Their bullshit definitely has been a huge demotivating factor in me doing the YouTubes as of late. Just because they keep fucking around with everything, and it definitely discourages. I'm worried about the potential of this platform in the future for new YouTubers, just because it's so difficult for them to get like found out and stuff. It's not impossible, but it's getting harder and harder to navigate. And so that's definitely been a little bit of a demotivator. But I'm back for today. We're gonna talk about shit because fuck YouTube. But yeah, so say hello in the chat when you show up. I'll say hello back to you guys. What do you say, Aramil? Should we roll into the first story? Are you excited to talk about it?
Hi, Admiral.
So we're gonna talk about Valve. So I don't know if you know how much you know about this, Aramil, but like a couple weeks ago, Valve was in huge controversy over a certain video game they were putting up. Did you hear anything about this?
Not much at all.
Okay, so basically, it was a shooter game that was developed, and in this game, you could take on the role of like a police officer having to go into a school and stop a school shooter, or you could take on the role of the school shooter, and like you'd go around the school shooting up the place. And of course, as you know, in our current political climate, that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way. So they got a little annoyed with that, and there was like this huge petition to get Valve to remove the game from Steam. I don't know what's your thoughts on a game like that. You have anything on that?
I could see I don't know how they were trying to make it, but if it was like multiplayer, was it going to be multiplayer?
I don't know if it was multiplayer. I know it was a simulation game, so it at least had some realism to it.
But I feel like one of those type of games could be multiplayer because it could teach people how to deal with that type of crisis.
Well, that's what this person was trying to say for the game. It was like supposed to be like, because when I worked at the SEI, they did like hostage simulations where they would like basically do like a video game version of rescuing a hostage, and it was pretty cool. Revenge of the Manatee Part 4. I want to do that soon. Arima, that's the DPRPG, since you don't know what the hell that is. I was going to do it, I think Tuesday, but then I saw Ben Pie was streaming it, and I was like, I ain't gonna compete with Ben Pie, so I didn't stream on Tuesday. I do want to do. I want to jump into Star Trek Online here in a bit, and in a bit, not like this stream, but maybe even tonight. I'll hop in. I want to make a Jem'Hadar, and we'll check out the Star Trek Online expansion. But tons of people still reach out to me to do that, so I'll definitely probably pick that one back up. It's just, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, YouTube's been a little annoying lately, so I took a break. But yeah, so it basically was a simulator game. I don't know. My feelings on it was I didn't have too much of a strong opinion on it. Um, just it being marketed as a game, especially where you can go and shoot up a school, is kind of weird, and I can get the outrage, but I don't know if I would have. I didn't sign any petitions to get it removed, but I definitely thought it was interesting the amount of controversy that got behind it. And I guess there's been a whole bunch of other controversies recently around what games have been on Steam, and they've been hit hard by media coverage. And so right now I got up a Polygon article I saw this morning that I was just like, wow, really? I read through this, and it was just a complete hit piece on Valve. And honestly, I felt like I was reading somebody's like college like newspaper article like they would have written for class, because this just felt like a kid was writing it upset that they didn't get their way. That's basically what I got through reading this article. Um, so the response Valve has had to all of this call to like control the games they're selling on Steam and all this stuff. Their response they came out and said is, we don't really want to content police our stuff. It's going to take too much time. We're just here to sell games. So unless it's deemed illegal by us or it's a game that's meant to troll, they're not going to really remove it. So, and this pissed off at least Polygon. I've been seeing this type of article though elsewhere. Um, and it's been going around. People did not like that response. They and it's mainly because they want them to police their content better. So what's your feeling there, Aramil? As you have way more Steam games than I do, so you're more invested in the platform. What do you think?
I think like the whole policing issue is just it goes overboard a lot of the times, and it finds issues where there aren't actually issues,
Yeah.
and it hurts a lot of communities by doing it. Like you can see how with Blizzard's games and them like super policing Overwatch, how that game has just declined rapidly.
Overwatch has, from what I hear, basically died. I don't even
Pretty
think it's
much.
just. I don't think it's just because of their community stuff. I think it's because of just other competition out there and just how they've handled their game.
It's that, and from a lot of my friends that still play it say that the community is just so terrible because everyone's just pissed off that when they lose their account, they just go buy another one and then just make more the community worse.
That's
I'm
basically what
like,
happens on YouTube. If you get
yeah,
banned, even if it's like for a legit thing, you can just make a new account and come back. So it's not like it's a perma ban. It's just you lost your progress on your previous channel.
and with Overwatch, if you don't pay any money for like loot box or anything, I mean, you don't really need to get the loot. So people that care about messing with people are just going to continue to do it. And it's they're also policing like not in game. They're trying to go all,
Yeah,
oh,
I saw that.
if
I think I
that's
even
what kills a
covered
lot of
that
people.
previously. Like it's
So,
weird that these companies are starting to go like, especially for a video game that's meant for fun, have decided outside the video game they're gonna now watch people to police those places, so that if you're bad on your Facebook, you're gonna not be able to play our video game. It's like, what?
but also like for the game that was in question that Valve was releasing, it can also be used as a huge research tool because you can like if it is for like school shootings,
Hmm?
the different research firms can see, oh, how do just anyone off the street, how do they approach being in the shooter role, and how do they try to get into the school, and how do they try to do the most damage. So like it can be used as a huge research tool to make schools safer if they use it right. If it's not used right, well, I mean it's still just a game. So I don't the people who are opposed to releasing such a game, I think, are a little short-sighted if they're going, oh, it's
It
a negative
definitely
for
came
everybody.
across as more of like an outrage thing, which I get because the whole school shooting thing is a really sensitive topic right now. I just felt it was a lot of misplaced anger in the video game, because to me, like, even if you take down this video game, like, let's even give it the let's give those people who want taken down the benefit of the doubt, like it's a bad idea to put up the video game, which I'm not even leaning one way or the other. Um, let's say they take it down. Do you really think that's going to solve the problem of school shootings in any way if the video game
No,
is removed? No. So it's like the two things that I think are the big problems that we need to solve as a society in order to deal with the school shooting problem. Actually, there's three. I feel like two of the things are the subjects both sides of the political spectrum have latched on. The right is basically just saying it's a mental health problem at this point, and then you have people on the left who are saying it's just a gun problem. And I'm of the firm belief both of those have some truth to it, and you need to solve both of those. But for whatever reason, because the way our society works, it's become a team sport, and you have to pick one or the other and stick by it in this debate. You can't pick both. At least when it comes to Democrats versus Republicans. And then the other thing I feel like is even more of a problem this shooter game existing is how media covers the whole issue of school shootings. They basically will just they cover it nonstop when a school shooting happens, and they plaster the dude's face everywhere. And it's I forget where I heard it, but somebody asked, "What's the number one way you can become famous now in this country, really quick and easily?" And it's to go do a shooting like that, and that's kind of really disturbing to think about. And yeah, it's just I feel like we need to solve those as problems in order to do it, and not just ban this video game.
Yeah, an easy way to reduce the popularity of those people or when the broadcasting of the school shooters just go, hey, a school shooting happened, and then cover that, but never cover the person who actually did it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot
It's,
of people who believe you shouldn't say the name, and I'm kind of one of them.
or even put the face on. Just
Yeah,
the they're already either dead or going to jail for a very long time. They don't need publicity at all.
the problem is it gets the views for these networks, and they know it, so they're gonna plaster the face around for like the whole 24-hour news cycle, and they make it such a big thing. Let me just say hello to people who've showed up in the chat. Fraxcall, good to see you again. Thank you for being a $5 patron, Fraxcall. I still appreciate that support. Low energy videos, good to see you. Adam E, spectacular glasses. I'll applaud. Let's applaud for spectacular glasses here. Let's see, and pagan situations. Good to see you, pagan. But yeah, all of those I felt were more reasons to tackle than this video game. Now here, so I'm kind of on the side with Valve in this decision here not to police their content, and I think that just comes from being a YouTuber, because YouTube polices their content so drastically and in such a, I guess I have to say, dumb manner. They're not consistent at all when it comes to how they police their content. Like, for example, I don't know how much you know about the whole Logan Paul story, Aramil, with how he basically like posted a dead body on his stream.
Oh
From
yeah, that was
yeah,
a while ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a bit, but he did that, and he's still like on YouTube. His account wasn't banned, but if somebody who had like 100 subscribers went and did that, they're gone. So there's a whole double standard based off of how, if you make them advertiser money, how they'll treat you, or if you have a popular opinion that YouTube agrees with, they'll treat you differently on the platform.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I thought I said
There's
hello to low energy vids. These people are saying I didn't notice low energy video.
well, we can always backtrack the live feed and
Check it
find
out.
it or didn't.
Well, if I didn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, YouTube's so inconsistent about it, and I'm like, does Valve really want to go down that route? And I think they've made a smart business decision here by not doing it.
In a way, they're also making it like the community's responsibility at the same time to police in a sense
Well,
the
yeah, to play devil's advocate here, a lot of people have been arguing they're just doing that to save money. It's like, oh, we'll just push it on the consumer, which I can see that argument. But I mean, it's such a crazy amount of content to try to weed through. Valve should
true.
police their content because they're selling garbage products. I mean, it depends on where you look. I mean, they have a lot of good games on on Valve or Steam. I don't know if you're talking about Valve as a company. They haven't done any good games in a while. See, here's my whole thing. They're trying to take on Valve, and I'm like, if Half-Life 3 couldn't take down Valve and Steam because that's been a whole debacle for like a decade now, I doubt this story is going to hurt them at all. I
No.
think they're too big to go down. Gamers rely on them too much.
Plus, if they police the content on Steam, like say they start banning mods left and right because they're deemed inappropriate. There's I know for a chunk of games There's Nexus mods that a friend introduced me to, and you can essentially just bypass the Steam mods and download a ton of different mods for your games.
The
Yeah,
voice is Aramil.
they have 559 games on Nexus mods that you can just mod.
So
So
Pagan's bringing up an interesting point that we should talk about. It says Valve should police their content because they are selling, or not that one. I read that. It was YouTube is an open platform and people aren't paying for videos. So that there is a little bit of a difference there between YouTube and Steam. So YouTube videos aren't necessary. Like it's free for us as the user to come and watch them for the most part. But some people have YouTube Red, so they're paying for to basically see videos. They don't have to pay to really see the videos. Like our videos, this video is free to them, but they're technically paying to see it with YouTube Red still. That and the whole YouTube Red catalog. And you have the advertisers who are paying YouTube. So that's kind of going on. I would say if you don't agree with Steam's decision, then you should probably you vote with your wallet. That's kind of my feeling. I would rather have people vote with their wallet than news media come and be like, we disagree with this, so we're gonna run like these really crappy hit pieces on Valve. But I think most people just don't care about this. This isn't gonna hurt Valve at all because people care way more about Steam than this issue.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess some of this was about porn mods to games too, adult content. That was also what they wanted policed, like adult content on Steam.
and um, those are also on Nexus mods because when I was getting mods for Skyrim, I did see those. I was like, oh, okay, but you won't see them on the Steam, I don't think. And I could even look it up to see if it's on
Mm-hmm.
Steam.
But with my wallet, but weed is still illegal. Well, sadly, yeah, that's a whole different issue there.
They even have on a when I went to go to the mods page on Steam, it said, "Hey, are you sure you want to view these mods? They might be inappropriate." This was just the generic mod page.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Well, they even have a disclaimer there."
Yeah, I, I, the whole problem with YouTube is they've gotten so far down the rabbit hole of policing content that they found it's just so hard to police it well, and it's end up hurting their financial situation in a way. At least when it came to ad revenue on YouTube videos, because now they just ban tons of YouTube videos from ad revenue that otherwise are actually okay for ads, but because they've had to crack down so much, it's kind of hurting that bottom line. I don't know if they're making it up from YouTube Red or anything. And I feel like Valve basically comes out and says, look, we're in the business of making money, so we're going to take it from anywhere we get it. Because some people will agree with the morality of a game and some won't. And some people who work here might like a game and some won't. And we're not, just because we don't say, hey, we're going to ban this game. We might not agree with it, but we're not going to ban it. I'm kind of on that page.
Yeah, if you don't like something, don't buy it.
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm like, they're they're a platform there that's to sell video games. It's not even just their video selling. They're just a resource for people to categorize all their video games and use it as a launch service. And now here's the one thing I will say that makes me do raise an eyebrow and question what they said, because they do say it's let's see, where's the exact quote here? Okay, here. So it says, we've decided the right approach is to allow everything onto the Steam store except for things that we decide are illegal or straight up trolling. So the part where I kind of raise an eyebrow is what do they decide is illegal? Like, what's their definition of that? Could they just randomly start determining something's illegal and banning it? Like, what's now that part? Like, that's where I can start to be like, are they gonna go down the YouTube hole of, oh, we decided that's illegal and that's not good. Even though they are, because there's still room for them to come on and police their content, even though they say they're not going to do it. This statement kind of gives them a little bit of a cop out here. And what do they decide is trolling or not? Like that whole part is concerning to me still. So
Yeah,
it,
I
go ahead.
that's interesting
Yes,
because there are
that's the
many
whole quote
different
where these
forms
people
of
are getting.
trolling.
Yeah, and that's where all these news outlets are coming together and getting really pissed off that that was their response, or at least that's like the first quote they run with here. And I'm like, wait a second. When I read that, that still sounds like they could police content if they want by whatever standards they deem fit. And in that way, that doesn't sound too different from YouTube. The only reason I think they're getting pissed is for the later parts where they're like, yeah, we don't really want to police like on this or that. But the first statement still leaves it open that they can. So it's kind of like down to how Valve takes action in the future, not by what they say in my opinion. It was the school shooting game that did it, to be honest, but now you can get called Simulator. What the fuck? That's okay. Well, you know what? If somebody really wants to play that in their free time, go right ahead. I won't stop them. I'll just question them and probably make fun of them, but that's my right. But yeah, I'm still of the opinion if Half-Life 3 hasn't killed Valve, then nothing's gonna really take them down unless they like are caught like child sex trafficking or something. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your guys' opinion in chat? Anything more you want to say on this story before we move on to the next? And meanwhile, I'll say it again for those of you who are not subscribed. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button at the bottom. If you hit the bell, you'll get notified whenever we go live. Sometimes I don't know if YouTube's actually fixed that in the last month. But as far as I know, it's just gotten worse. I will say I believe the link is still down below. Join the Discord. That's probably the better way, honestly, to get notified when we go live. I send a message out, tag everybody, and go, "Hey, we're live. Come and say hello." So that's probably the best ways to catch up with the channel. And then if you guys do want and you really enjoy the stream and you really want to send in a message, you can send in a message from the link below for Streamlabs. If you do so here, I'll let you guys see it. You get to see me flip a desk in a thing. Here we go. Test. Here's the donation. Boom. There, you can watch me flip a desk and then beat it with a bat. And it's really loud, so that like blows up in my ears. So if you want to potentially scare me, because I probably won't expect it, you can do that too. Yeah, Spectacular Glasses is saying YouTube didn't tell him, but Discord did. I highly expected that. I mean, I really feel bad for the indie people who can't go to Steam now. I mean, I wouldn't want to put my shit up on Steam. Yeah, see, that's also why I took a break from YouTube, because of all the dumb policing content. The part that got really scary for me, even though I've never talked about it on YouTube, is the whole weed thing. I don't know if you know this, Aramil, but they banned like a bunch of channels that were like weed related channels just out of the blue with no alert or anything. And the
No
alert,
reasoning or
yeah, they didn't well, no, not even alert. They just came up and were like, your channel's been banned by. They didn't give a reason, they didn't give any heads up. And the only reason people found out about this was because all the people who were banned were like, I was a weed channel. I was a weed channel. And of course the people who like go to YouTube to watch that type of content noticed it when all their channels they were watching were just suddenly gone.
huh.
Yeah, and so it's setting a scary precedent where you never know what YouTube will decide next is not appropriate and they'll just ban your channel.
Yeah. Weed is completely illegal in what, 2 states?
Well, it's funny cuz YouTube, it's more than two. It's like
Oh, is it, they've done
yeah,
it more now?
they've done it
Okay.
more.
I haven't
But
been
it's funny
following that
because
story.
yeah. Um it's funny cuz YouTube's based out of California and I'm pretty sure it's legal there. So I don't know. It's just weird that they finally decided at any time like they're like making it more legal in this country, but as that happens they decide nope, we're going to crack down on it on YouTube. It's
Does the
weird.
tobacco industry have a lot of funds in YouTube?
I don't know. That's the funny
Because
thing,
that
right? Well,
Be
I
like,
bet you would.
hey, you two.
You know what? Actually, I'd probably question alcohol more. It's alcohol that usually goes up
Uh,
against the weed industry more because most people I know, if they had to pick between alcohol and weed, they usually go weed because there's less like bad side effects from it. For most people, not everybody. But let's talk about the next story here. Boom. We're gonna talk about the wonderful movie Han Solo, which I've been trying to get Airmill to go see with me for like the last 2 weeks, and he keeps saying no, and I don't know why. Why, Airmill? Why do you hate this movie?
it's uh, it's a bad movie.
Oh shit. Yeah. So me and Airmill are not Star Wars fans whatsoever. We're pretty much Star Trek fans. Do you even like any of the Star Wars movies?
I give the original three episodes 4, 5, and 6 an okay, and then
Yeah, I
the
say that.
episodes 1, 2, and 3 were like, oh, the whole series sucks.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same boat. Though I like the original trilogy. I think a little more than you do. I appreciate for what it was. It's a pretty good trilogy, but as a franchise, I'm just like, meh. I don't care
See,
for it.
I'd be interested in Star Wars if they like a lot of my friends who are Star Wars fans have told me about like the Old Republic and that type of Star Wars. I'm like, that's more interesting than anything new.
I don't know anything about the Old Republic, but I've watched a couple reviews for the Solo movie. A lot of people talk about that's what they want to see. They don't want to see like a retreading of Solo, know his origin story. They would rather see something to do with like the Old Republic. And I'm
That's
like,
because there's just so much interesting things going on in that.
I mean, they had a
And
freaking at least one MMO was around the Old Republic. I don't know if it was two MMO. I don't know what the original Star Wars.
yeah, I played that MMO, and the only reason I stopped playing it was because it was an MMO, and I don't like MMO gameplay.
Yeah, they're pretty grindy. I don't. The only one I ever played was Star Trek Online, and even now, like you can kind of tell the grind is still there. Like when I played it a little bit last night. Um, I think it's also just because a lot of the changes I still don't agree with the game. Plus, the game's super old. Like I played that thing for so long, so it's already when it was repetitive content, it's just not going to be as fun. And that's why
Yeah,
I couldn't really get into WoW when I tried it. Like I like the universe of Warcraft, but the gameplay it's just really grindy. And unless you have friends to play with, it's really boring.
I think I had like a group of 8 people continuously request that I join their WoW guild because they play like every other day. And I'm like, I have not enough money to acquire a WoW account. And they're like, you can pay with in-game gold. I go, I have not enough time to get enough gold to pay for the game.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I that's the thing I hate. Like at least Star Trek Online's free to play. It's just you can buy stuff in game, which does kind of suck because it's forced them to like put every ship in game. So if you're like a Federation player, you can literally fly whatever ship you want. You just have to pay for it. You like I see people flying around all the time in like Iconian dreadnought ships and stuff, and it's like, what the fuck? Like when I used to
That,
do
that doesn't make much sense.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it doesn't. But you know why they're doing it as a company because they're like,
yeah,
well, yeah,
business.
business. Um, but it's so weird when you like there's like missions you can join in that game where you team up with like 5 people and they're sometimes randomly determined unless you went in with a group of friends. But there'd be so many times where I'd join that mission and I'd be the only Starfleet ship in an actual or a Starfleet character in a Starfleet ship and everybody else would be like, this dude's in a Tholian ship and this one's in a fucking captured Cardassian ship and this one's a Romulan and a weird
Did
ship.
they add an aboard cube as a flyable ship?
No, they have not. So
Good.
they
They
haven't
better.
touched that yet. I wonder if they'll do
That'd be
that.
better.
But back
But
to Solo, because that's we're talking about Solo here. Uh,
oh,
Solo will lose 50 million plus in the first defeat for Disney's Star Wars Empire, which I'm like, I'm not surprised by this. I had no interest in the last Star Wars movie I was somewhat interested in seeing was Episode 8, but then I didn't see it because of all the bad reviews. But Solo, the second I heard of this, I was just like, boring. Don't care. It's a prequel.
oh no, is that the social justice droid on the left?
Oh yeah, that is. You know what's funny? A lot of people were pissed off about it because they thought it was gonna be like this feminist robot. But from everybody who's seen it, I've heard it's actually more making fun of feminists than it is like backing them up. Which it's weird because Disney has definitely been more on the feminist side of things when it's come to their media.
I wonder
Especially
if they were going to attempt to support them through humor and then ended up just hurting them.
that's yeah, I'd have to see it to know, but from what I've seen, everybody feels like it was there intentionally to make fun of the social justice warrior culture. And I'm like, I don't know. It's weird if it is because their PR has basically been to shame any man who hasn't liked the Star Wars movies and tell them, well, it's because you don't like female leads. And it's like, well, for me, I just don't like Star Wars, so unless you make a really good movie, I'm probably not gonna like it. But go ahead, you can try to guilt me into it with sexism, I guess. Maybe I'll go see it then. That works, right?
No.
But yeah, I don't know. This has been like a huge like a sign to all the fans who have been saying boycott Star Wars for like the last couple months that it's the boycott's working. And I'm on the fence with that because I feel like this was just a terrible movie to begin with that nobody was going to see already. Like I know so many people who love to go and see Star Wars movies, but this one they skipped out on because they just didn't care. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think the real test will be episode 9. I think if that one doesn't do well, that's when they have to really change directions.
Oh yeah.
Because,
Like
yeah, go
as
ahead.
soon as they go to the old Republic type of stuff, then I would actually be interested in the universe, and I think a lot more people would also be interested in the universe that weren't originally Star Wars fans, just because there's more in the universe going on during that era than there is in the current era of Star Wars.
Yeah, but here's my problem with the whole Disney reboot, and this is why I'm just like, I don't care for it. Like, the only movie I've cared to see was episode 7, and I enjoyed episode 7, but there's no denying how similar it is to episode 4. Like, you can copy and paste it. It's the only difference is graphics and characters. That's it. But it's the same plot. You've seen it done already, and honestly, you've seen it done better in the original. So you have that movie. You have Rogue
Was
One.
also physically possible in the original, and
Yeah,
the new one it was not physically possible.
that's true. Um, the uh, the Rogue One, I didn't care to see it because again, it was a prequel, and I'm just done with prequels. Episode 8, just from what I hear, took the franchise in a direction the fans didn't care for, and they kind of spit on the original characters. So I'm like, meh. And then again, Han Solo is another prequel. They're just retreading old ground in their movies for the most part. Um, and that's boring. I don't want to see that. Honestly, when I went to see episode 7, I wanted to see something new in the Star Wars universe that was exciting to watch. Because at least while the prequels are boring as fuck and they're terrible movies, at least they were trying to do something different. They weren't just retreading what the original trilogy had did.
The other thing that the new Star Wars movies does, goes and shows like what was the point of the entire struggle of the fourth, fifth, and sixth movie?
Yeah,
Because it just the cycle just repeated.
that's why I think it's boring because we're seeing this whole rebellion again, and it's like I've seen this story play out, and it kind of undermines the original trilogy because they, by saying the rebellion is still going on all these years later, it's like nothing they did in the original trilogy mattered. So I haven't cared to go and see Star Wars at all because it's just like meh. I want to see something different. Show me like maybe a new Sith Lord came up from power after the Empire crumbled and is trying to now fuck with whatever came afterwards. Whether it was like a new Republic or something, I don't know. Let me see what Low Energy said here. I saw Solo and I didn't hate it, nor did I love it. It was pretty much meh, but it's a Star Wars movie. It needs to be better than just okay. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people I've seen that have seen this movie, if they've been open to it, they've said it's just been okay. It isn't a terrible movie, but it isn't great. And I do agree. I kind of have a higher expectation for Star Wars just because it's so talked up as like the best franchise ever. And it's like this at most is a mediocre film.
The other thing that this is reminding me of was the recent Alien movie that I watched. The sequel to the Prometheus. I forget. I don't even know what the second one was called. but they're doing also another trilogy. Like, oh, a trilogy will work out really well. And probably every 5 minutes in during the movie, I was like, why is this going on? This makes no sense. And just everything about the movie didn't make sense. And the whole spiel with the Alien movies was they're trying to be like a horror film, and a good horror film has a mystery and a story to it, not jump scares.
Yeah. Like it's
So
got
I
to
think,
scar you on some level that you think about it later. You're like,
oh,
wow, that was disturbing. Not just like, oh shit, they had a jump scare while the alien came out of nowhere and they did some musical tones to make you go in your seat. Oh shit.
well, here's the worst thing about that: the aliens didn't come out of nowhere. You saw them coming the entire way during the entire movie. I was just like, so they were trying to do a jump scare, but it was just like that you saw it. It was one of those, oh, I know that a jump scare is about to occur now, and then it wasn't scary.
Yeah.
But they need to do a mystery, and there's no mystery in that anymore. And I
I
think that's
think
the
I think Solo would have done better, honestly, if it wasn't about Han Solo. Like, just imagine if it was just like a Star Wars movie where it was just about like space pirates and they were like doing a
yeah.
heist or something. I think this movie would have gone over way better, but because it had like they had to brand it on Han Solo and his nostalgia for him, I think that takes away from the movie. Because like we know what happens to Han Solo. Like they're not gonna do anything crazy. You know his whole story from what was described in the or not the prequels, but the original trilogy. So
Hmm.
it's kind of boring to watch that. Like I wasn't interested in it, but just say it was like an exciting like pirate adventure that showed you more aspects of this universe. Then that would have been a lot more interesting. 'Cause I think that's what like I see low energy is kind of like it was meh. It wasn't great or anything. I wonder, low energy, do you feel like you would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't about Han Solo, but it was just about somebody else? 'Cause that's I feel like a lot of people's complaints are definitely centered around it's just there's no risk. There's nothing to this movie because it's Han Solo, a prequel again, so they're restricted on what they can do. That's the problem with just doing prequels. Like
Hmm.
they just gotta stop.
Unless it's like an interesting story, like that they could make something go on, like with Star Trek Enterprise. They started that show too early. Like
I think the
there
problem
wasn't
with
much
Star Trek
interesting going
Enterprise,
on.
well, no, I think they started it okay. It's just the writing. The writing was so boring. And like you haven't watched Star Trek Discovery because good on you, it was terrible. But it honestly, Enterprise should have done what Discovery is doing now because Discovery is trying to be something drastically different from the most popular stuff in the Star Trek franchise. Like 10 years after there hasn't been a show where the fans have been dying to see basically like a new TNG. Like, of course, it's going to
Mhm.
be somewhat different because it's in a different decade, so they have to write it differently. But the show's not even anywhere close. It feels more like Game of Thrones. And I hate saying that too, because like even though I hate Game of Thrones and I'm not interested in it, like they definitely got the writing down if people care this much about the characters and all that. Um, now, um, Enterprise should have been something drastically different because it was playing the same book like Voyager had played and DS9 and TNG. It didn't feel different enough to me. And at a
Also, I think
time,
if they did the Romulan, the first Federation or Earth Human Romulan War, if they did that as a big thing, that would have been interesting.
yeah, like the only prequel you could have really done for Star Trek was the founding of the Federation, because that's the only thing interesting that was in the past,
Yep.
and they've done it. So it's like, again, it comes down to like, is it an important prequel to tell? No. And like you're saying with the Old Republic, that's a prequel that probably is worth telling because we don't know too much about it. See, when you know a lot about it, it's not worth telling a prequel for it. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think you saw the Harry Potter prequel, Fantastic Beasts,
Nope.
but I feel like that's another good example of how to do a prequel because, for one thing, it has nothing to do with most of the original characters in the Harry Potter universe. So when you go to see it, you're kind of seeing it as its own standalone adventure. Like, I enjoyed it a lot because in all honesty, it doesn't have a huge effect on the world in the future. I knew, but
Mhm.
I didn't know how that would end up for the characters in the movie at all. Because I'm like, I've never heard of most of these people, so you're still like invested in the movie because you want to know what happens to them if you grow to like the characters. But when you do prequels for characters that have already been pretty well developed, um, those are a little trickier to pull off. They were so ashamed to be connected to Star Trek, they didn't even call it Star Trek Enterprise. It was just Enterprise. It's Boat in space. Yeah, that was weird that they didn't want to call it Star Trek. I've heard the reasonings why, and I think it was just because they were trying to market beyond Star Trek fans because they saw a decline after DS9 and Voyager. I don't think DS9 had a huge drop off from what I understand. Like a lot of people give DS9 shit, and I'm going to defend it one because it's my favorite. But two, I think if it had a drop off, it just was minuscule at the time. Like it wasn't enough because it got all 7 seasons. I think Voyager had more of a drop off, but it wasn't enough to like cancel the show. It was still doing okay.
Did Voyager release the first few seasons at the end of DS9?
Voyager started roughly in season 3 of DS9, I would say. It's like
Like I
around
know,
that time.
like in the universe chronologically, but like, did they start releasing the episodes to us during season 3 DS9?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
So
and
they were
that
like running
also because
simultaneously.
the first 2 seasons of Voyager probably made people go, "Oh, Star Trek sucks," and then that might also hurt DS9, just because if you see a bunch of terrible episodes in one Star Trek show,
Yeah, you
you're
get
gonna be
skeptical
like,
about all
why
of
do
it.
I want to watch? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get that.
But
Um,
here's the other great thing: if Star Wars were to go back to the Old Republic, is from what I've been told, none of it is canon that is currently known. So everything that they do, they can just make it up. It doesn't have to be what everyone currently knows of the Old Republic. Um, there's a lot of that's the unknown is it's also so far in the past. I think it's I don't 1,000 years or so,
mhm.
maybe more. I don't know the exact time, but it was essentially when the entire Star Wars galaxy was united as one empire. And then, when you control an entire galaxy, you can't actively control it easily, and it goes to shit.
Yeah, like the idea of the prequels when you break it down, it's actually an interesting idea. Like seeing how a republic completely fails, how the empire comes about. But just the
Hmm.
way it's like the way the movie's shot and the way the story's told and the characters are created, they're just that's what ruins it. The idea's there to be like a decent trilogy, but yeah, it was not executed well. I love all the shows up to Enterprise. I liked some of Enterprise's episodes, not many, but some. But I have yet to see Discovery. I'm okay with Enterprise. Enterprise is weird because that's like the show me and Airmill grew up on, and that was like our first Star Trek show. But as I don't know, where do you rank Enterprise in your like?
See, as a Star Trek show, because I recently went and rewatched it, because I'm watching rewatching all the Star Treks in chronological order now. I'm just like I've never done it, so let's do it. And for Enterprise, when I was watching, I'm like, this is a good show. It just doesn't feel like a Star Trek show.
It starts to feel
And
like one once you get to like season 4.
yeah, season 4 it turns into that, but like seasons 1 through 3, it's just the
It kind of feels like a
sci-fi.
generic, yeah, generic like space sci-fi. Like you could strip out a lot of the Star Trek aspects of Enterprise, and it could literally just be about Earth's first time going into
Yeah,
space with like a you don't even have to call it a warp drive, just like we've got hyper slingshot drive or something. Like it could be anything. The only thing that's
anything but Spore Drive.
oh yeah, don't get me fucking started on Spore Drive. Um, now yeah, that's the problem with Enterprise. Like that's what I think kind of killed it. They the whole point of a prequel, like In a way, it's funny because like we complain all the time too about like these prequels that they come out with, just like are constantly filled with nostalgia and throwing at you. But in a way, Enterprise didn't do enough of that to justify it being a prequel. So I guess it's you kind of have to
Yeah.
find the right balance with that.
The at least they brought in the Zindi. I like the Zindi species.
That dude, that season's so controversial. If you ask the fan base, like so many people hate that, and so many people are like, that's where they think it started getting good. I used
I
to
just
think
like the Zindi.
I like the Zindi as a race. Having rewatched that arc, I still think it's better than what Enterprise was doing before. Like at least it was doing something different compared to like their crappy like we're trying to do Star Trek shows, but they're more coming across as generic sci-fi plots. Um,
Yeah.
but like I would have rather seen like a season 4 of Enterprise than a season 3. So that's kind of what kills season 3 for me. Like if they could have just done what they did in season 4 more, then maybe season 3 would be more palatable. But because that's like the last season of Enterprise, it's like, oh, I would have loved to see more of the show be like this.
You the funny thing, when I was rewatching it, since I played a lot of the Star Trek Horizons mod for Stellaris,
Oh yeah, we got to play that
um,
again. I liked that.
I when every single time that I'd play the Federation and I would find the Vulcan ship with the insane Vulcans, I'd always be like, let's help them out and see what we can do. And then I'd always save them, and then they'd help me fight the Zindi weapon. And when I got to that episode in the Enterprise series, and they didn't save him, I was like, oh, I did it wrong. But the I do think the Stellaris mod is probably one of the best mods for any game I've ever played.
It's a really good mod. Those of you who haven't played Stellaris and like Star Trek, that's definitely a Star Trek thing checking out. I'd love to get a game together where we get everybody to play like the major empires. The thing I hate about playing that mod solo is when I play the Federation, I get along with the Cleons way too well. It's
Yeah,
weird. It's weird. Like I when I play the game, I've never gotten close to going to war with them unless I start it. Which I'm like, I'm the Federation. I don't feel like I should be starting war.
when I was the Federation, I always went to war. Like it didn't matter what I did. It was the Cardassian, the Romulans, and the Shellyak all made a confederation, and then would always declare war on me.
That's
I was
funny.
just like, well, I wonder how the mod works now with the new Stellaris release. Yeah, all the new stuff that they put with Stellaris
Oh yeah,
2.0.
that'd be something worth checking out. Love next gen. Yeah, I don't. I Voyager's. There's aspects of Voyager I like, but for me, it's like the original series, next gen, DS9 are like the high points of the Star Trek franchise for sure, and a couple of the movies.
I like the Prometheus.
Oh god, Ari really hates that ship. I don't even think it's that bad of a looking ship. I'm trying to see where. But yeah, that's I think yeah, definitely. If Star Wars fans are gonna like I said earlier, vote with your wallet, people. If you don't like something, just don't pay for it anymore. Don't go see it. If Star Wars fans are that pissed off with where the Star Wars franchise is going, if none of you showed up for Episode 9 and didn't pay for it, Disney's gonna be like, oh fuck, we're losing business. Let's do what our customers want so we can get their money back. But my gut feeling is there's enough people that while they might hate it, they feel obligated to pay for the next Star Wars episode because they're like, oh, I gotta go see it though. That's what happened with the prequels. I've seen a couple
Yeah,
articles circulating around that basically made that argument, and I feel like part of it's they're covering to not change anything, but I kind of agree with them. I'm like, yeah, people still paid through the nose for the prequels. They're pretty terrible, but I think we'll have to see because if Episode 9 definitely tanks at the box office, and I don't think it is. I think if anything, it will earn less money than Episode 8, but I don't think it will do as bad as Solo. just because it's episode 9. It's basically what the Star Wars franchise is. It's like those are the core movies. This just kind of felt like a throwaway movie to a lot of people.
I could see it.
Here, I like the Borg and the Doctor storyline where he's a person. Yeah, there's decent aspects to Voyager. Like I actually do like the Doctor's character. I don't like the Borg episodes are a little better done in Voyager. I just don't like the Borg Queen. I thought she was a
Yeah.
terrible addition to the Borg.
Like, there's probably some central processing unit for the Borg,
But giving it like a
but
face ruined it.
yeah, a queen, maybe like a giant computer,
Yeah.
or like the Unicomplex was the giant computer. That would have been like, I think, way better than, oh, we have a queen that decides everything.
Yeah, it was definitely more alien when like Janeway first talked with the Borg, where she was like in the center of the cube talking to like the center of the like whatever that was, all the Borg there. It made him feel a lot more alien and like, hey, you lose your individuality. Instead of like when she talks to the Queen, who still seemed to have personality and all that shit. Then it just seems like I took over all these people and forced my will on them, which like no different from to like humanity. Somebody's enforcing their beliefs and opinions on others through rule. That's what I mean. That's what every human government is.
The other thing is, I think maybe if they would have gone and said that the Borg queen was like Locutus, a intermediary, so that the human people could more easily adjust to being assimilated, because that was the whole reasoning they got Locutus. But the queen was more written as, oh, this is just our leader.
Oh yeah. That was poor decision for the Borg. They kind of only did it because First Contact came, and because they wanted to bring in just general audience members. They're like, well, we got to give it a face because people want to see a big bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's Solo, guys. It flopped. It didn't do well. Who knows what will happen? I know a lot of people are rooting for Kathleen Kennedy to get fired. I don't like her, so sure, why not? Just, I mean, like, you shouldn't fire somebody if you don't like them, but if they're doing a terrible job, which is clearly going on with Kathleen Kennedy here, yeah, it's time to let her go and bring somebody else, and you can do better. Because if I was somebody who was putting money on the Star Wars franchise, I'd be like, "Yo, get somebody better. We need more money to be made." So we'll see. I feel like the real test of what's gonna happen with the Star Wars franchise comes down to Episode 9.
Yep.
So the last story I have here is it's my one political one. I haven't been following politics as much just because it's annoying. It's getting to a point now where it's like, nothing ever happens. It's just bullshit. But this one I definitely like. It caught my eye today when I was looking at stuff. This one is about House Dems are trying to figure out what they want to do with the super delegates, which I think me and you both would say we were once Democrats. At least I would probably say I was a Democrat. I don't know how you felt ever.
I
But
was registered as a Democrat. I wouldn't say I agreed with a lot of their stuff, but I agree with them more over the Republicans.
yeah, like in our state, you have to be registered in a party to vote in their primary. So we both were pretty much of the opinion, well, we'll go to Democrat because, we like their candidates more. But then the whole super delegates throwing the election came out, and then it was like, oh, so no votes matter. So what's the point of being a Democrat then? So
Yeah.
yeah, because my whole thing is like I've thought about this ever since the election happened, and I've reached an interesting viewpoint where it's like, do I register as a Republican because they don't have the super delegate system? And I feel like my vote matters more over there than it does in the Democrats, like primary. So at least like I feel like when I vote in the Democratic Party, like my voice doesn't matter because there's so many other vote like there's these people who get thousands of votes for their one vote. Whereas I like so that drowns out my voice, but the Republican Party doesn't really have that. So it's like, Yeah, it might be more worth it voting over there. Which I hate saying that because I agree with Democratic candidates more than Republicans for the most part. But when it comes to a matter of getting your voice heard, I'm really starting to question why would you want to be in the Democratic Party at this point if they have the super delegate system? Because I know both of us sat out of the election after the primary process. We didn't vote.
Yep. I
And
know about a good like 50 people that also didn't do that
oh yeah, I know
just
way
from my
more.
college.
Like it's definitely within our generation. The only people I know who voted were ones that voted for Trump because they really hated Hillary. And like to this day they still hate on Trump, but they still back up voting him in because they just did not like Hillary. And they were ones that leaned more conservative already, but even they were like they fucking hated Trump. Um, and then I know like just like I don't even want to say more than 3 people who voted Hillary, and they were actually ones that were like they vote for any Democrat they want. So now the problem they've been having with the whole super delegate thing is the like the hardcore establishment Democrats do not want to get rid of the super delegates at all.
It's their only way to keep power.
Yeah, because they know like the second they give that up, they can't rig elections anymore. Plus, the people who are super delegates, come on, if you were a super delegate, would you really want to give up your like thousands of votes you get? Because that's a lot of power you get. I mean, in a way too, you're rigging like the whole election process. If you're like the one of 2 political parties in the presidential election, you get to rig like basically half of the whole thing. Because if it comes down to 2 people and you rigged one of the people there, you have a lot of power in who you put in office there, and they don't want to give that up. So I get that, but then it's like, why call yourself the Democratic Party? That's highly not democratic at all. So they've been debating for a while now what they wanna get rid of, like how they want to do it. The one thing I think they're considering, and I think it's the best outcome we're gonna get, is um they're gonna make it that the super delegates just have less of a voice. They don't have as many votes as they get, but they're not gonna undo the system. And I'm kind of like, eh, I'm still not completely on board with that. So I'm curious, Aramil, what would it take out of the Democrats for you to go vote for them?
Actually put good candidates in.
What's a good candidate to you?
For me, it was just someone who represents the people of that area, which I think a lot of the Democrats are bought off by companies. So the first qualification would be they don't accept tons of money from big companies or any money at all.
Yeah,
So that like right there, it goes, well, they're not going to do what I want them to do. They're going to do what they're paid to do.
that's definitely
Because
been a big problem with them.
yeah, I think it's just a big problem in politics in general. Um, and that was one of the big reasons of the downfall of Rome was when they got so big, their Senate didn't stopped representing the people. And then the people were like, oh, if you're not going to represent us, then we're not going to pay you. And then Rome fell apart. Wasn't the only reason, but
It was one of
there
them.
was that
It's
was one of
eerie
them,
how similar Rome is to where we are.
right?
I haven't studied like British history or anything, but I'm wondering if like that's a reason the British Empire, excuse me, started to collapse. That's like what the whole reason the Americans like uh revolted, because they felt like they weren't heard. And so they were like, "Well, fuck this, bye."
Yeah.
So it's
Like
a historical constant there.
friends always say, oh, history is important, and I go, well, if people don't pay attention to it, it's not, and
Yeah, if
people
you
don't
don't
pay
learn
attention
from,
to it,
that's the thing they don't teach you in history class, like in public school. They just like teach you history as like you should know this happened, and that's it. Like you should just know the dates when certain things happen. Which I mean, that's I mean, if you're gonna study history, states, but they don't teach you the why is it important to study history, and
Yeah.
it's to deal with the present, like learn from mistakes of the past so you don't repeat them, and also look at history like objective, like why were these decisions made? Use it like they don't teach you history with critical thinking. They do that in
Yeah.
college a little better, and that was when I finally started to have an interest in history.
Yeah, in the one history course that I took that was on the Roman Empire. That was there was a lot of like this is what happened, this is why it happened, and these were the consequences of that.
It was one thing that was interesting was covering the civil rights movement from a college perspective rather than like a public school perspective. Because when you look at it academically, like the civil rights movement was kind of a failure. Because I mean, look at our world today. Like we haven't defeated racism. It's probably it's maybe not institutionally as bad as it was, but definitely culture. I mean, you can't have a debate anymore politically without race being a factor. So it's
Yeah.
like in that aspect, the civil rights movement did not do anything. And a big part of that was because the civil rights movement died after they got it in the books that it was illegal to do like institutional racism. But culturally, they got nothing. And it was a big part because Vietnam. The government, like one of the big aspects to kill racism, the civil rights movement thought was like or to tackle income inequality, because they're like as long as there's like poor white people or poor any race, they're gonna blame, like one of the things that happens is you just start blaming people based off of arbitrary things, and
Yep.
they're like, hey, if everybody has like decent housing and a job and all this stuff, they're not gonna. It's gonna tackle a lot of these racist problems because that's what also divides people along race. Like if everybody's competing for resources, you're gonna start to. It's just human nature to be like, well, they look different than me, so they're definitely an enemy, which is really sad, but that's just how it works. And because they weren't able to tackle any of that because the government was like, shit, well, we can't do that because we have to pay for the Vietnam War still. Like half of the civil rights movement was willing to cave, and the other half was like, no, we got to keep fighting. And it basically then ended the movement there.
Yeah. I think one of the best ways to reduce racism significantly would be to for like America to focus on America rather than trying to gain political control of every country in the world. Like just even spending 5% of their funds on infrastructure rather than war would go a long way.
Yeah, the disturbing part is like how tied to political debate race has become. And it started with the Democrats. They definitely like used it as leverage to get people to vote for them. Like that's been how they've been trying to get the minority vote. But in a way it's alienated the white vote because they've like demonized white people so much. And like the problem is when you do that, poor white people aren't going to come out and vote for you because they feel like, wow, the Democrats are full of shit because I have like no money, and like they're
Yeah.
saying I'm so privileged. So then they go and listen to the Republicans, and then they go, yeah, let's go to vote for them because they're my other option, when the Republicans aren't doing that much better.
No.
And it's just kind of a way to keep people arguing while the status quo goes on. And it's a shame. It's funny now the Republicans are like doing the same identity politics that the left was doing, and they kept complaining about. Like you've seen it with the new CIA director that they've been trying to get in. Oh, we got a donation in from Sinrise. Thank you, Sinrise. Good morning. The whole being an adult and having a job thing is really cutting into my YouTube watching. I understand. You know what was funny? When I actually worked, since I worked at an office job, I actually had way more time to watch YouTube, at least as a background thing, than when I had a lot more free time. It's because it's like I need something to listen to, so I put it on. But thank you, Sinrise, for the $5 donation. I very much appreciate it. If you guys want to see another desk flip, you can send in a donation there. So thank you. Um, But yeah, now the Republicans are basically doing the whole like, oh, you should support the CIA director now because she's a woman, even though she was like behind a lot of the torture programs that the CIA tried to cover up. And it's like, are you doing exactly what you guys complained about the Democrats of doing, really? And it's just really sad to watch. I know you don't
The
watch like a. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just thinking back to my one class in which we were discussing gender inequality, and the one girl in our class who was a huge feminist was ranting about how sexist engineering was, and me studying engineering, sitting in the nice side of the room, I'm just listening to her rant, just like everything you said is wrong. And so I interject and I said, being an engineer, I can tell you how right and wrong your statement is. Engineering is definitely sexist because there are about 50 engineers from this school who applied to the same job. And you want to know who got the job? The one female person. And her qualifications were substandard. Like
Mm-hmm.
at least 40 of the other candidates, the male candidates, were had better qualifications. They had better GPA. They had better like clubs. A lot of them were in clubs and whatnot. Did a lot of extracurricular activities, and the only qualification that was different was that she was a female. And she didn't take that kindly. She was like, "That's sexist." I go, "It is."
It is. Yeah, she's right. It is sexist to hire people based off of their sex. But you don't hear feminists complaining about it too much because it's no longer an equality movement. It has morphed into a superiority. But that's what happens with like every movement is it's all about uh power. It's about grabbing power. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically human existence. It's all about who has power and who doesn't. And it's a struggle to get it. And that's what I've seen basically with all these feminist stuff. I think your Discord link expired. I'll have to fix that.
Did you do a bad thing?
I guess so. I'll put a new Discord link in here. Actually, I'll throw it into chat right now. Let me bring that up. Discord link.
This edit invite link. Ah,
You know what,
um,
Aramil, that's your job. You're good with the Discord.
generate a new link. Copy.
Yeah, I messed up real bad, man.
That link should never expire.
Oh, really? Okay, then I'm gonna change that in the description if it expires. Guess I put an expiring one. Here we
They
go.
changed the whole way that invites work on Discord because normally there would be that tab when initially you launch it and you could just hit never expire. Um, and then now you have to open it says little server invite link settings, like very it's like the fine print at the bottom of the page or the
Yeah.
window, and you open that up and then you can say how many uses does it get and when does it expire. So I said no limit for the uses and no limit for the duration.
Sweet. All movements descend into self-devouring monster that rips itself apart. Some of those parts form new ideas, but for the most part, all you can do is place bets on how long something will look familiar. Yep, that's. It's been funny watching that. Like the right loves to accuse the left of doing that, but I've seen it happen on the right so many times too.
I like the thing with Stellaris. The one campaign I played was before every exam this past semester. I was playing a artificial intelligence species where their entire their home world got destroyed by organics who went to thermonuclear war. And so their entire purpose was to stop organics from destroying the galaxy by destroying all organics in the galaxy. And there was a time when the organics had the power to uh, stop the AI, but they're too busy bickering with each other about minuscule things like, "Oh, we want this system," or
Nope.
"You're authoritarian and we're egalitarian," or "You're a warmonger and we're pacifists." And because the three biggest empires in the galaxy went to war with each other and pretty much devastated their fleets. My little AI empire went and said, "Thanks for your territories, and now you're all being turned into goo."
That's a good outcome. You guys bickered too much. Now you're goo to power my AI awesomeness. Yeah, organics. We should all just become robots.
That's the funny thing is like when I took the it was like a political survey thing that I think you gave me like years ago. I was like, "What party do you agree with?" And I was like 98% socialist. And people are like, "How are you 98% socialism?" I go, "They say socialism sucks." I go, "Well, when it's run by a human, it's terrible.
Yep.
But if you put an artificial intelligence in it that has no desire for power, it'll be fantastic." It's a great ideology, but terrible in practice.
Yep. That's pretty much my stance on it. I'm like, yeah, socialism is a great idea on paper, but humans definitely cannot execute it. Well, everybody, that's all the stories we had to cover. So I'll give everybody a minute or two here. If you have a topic that you want us to talk about that I haven't talked about, we can talk about it if it grabs our interest. Otherwise, we're gonna get going here. Interesting idea with the AI, but there are likely more than 20 years from anything resembling something that smart. I think we're way farther off from like actual really good AI. I feel like 20 is
Yeah,
too low. I don't even know if we'd have good AI in a century.
it depends on like, are we going to focus on trying to gain power as America, or are we going to focus on infrastructure? Because if you focus on infrastructure, you can put more funds into artificial intelligence research and all that type of
Mm.
stuff. Because we have some good like specific AI for like, I guess they're more of a VI, I guess in a sense, because they're designed for a
Yeah,
specific task. But to actually get an artificial intelligence, like I think the in the Star Trek universe, the first one that was probably Data, right?
yeah,
First actual
pretty
AI.
much.
So Star Trek predicts that the first AI that we'll encounter is in what, 23rd century, 24th century, 24th century.
I think Discovery though is throwing that out because Discovery is trying to be simple.
Yeah, they're in a parallel universe that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, I have no clue. That show. I want Orville back on. Not gonna be back on until December.
You mean Star Trek: The Orville?
Star Trek Orville, yeah.
That's a good show.
Intro is definitely better too. I really hated Discovery's intro. I know a lot of people who liked it. I was like, this looks like I think it was Ari who pointed out Star Trek Discovery's intro is basically the House intro. Which I've
Huh.
never watched House, but when I watched the intro, I looked it up. I was like, wow, yeah, this is copy paste. I like watched one episode of House and I thought it was.
There was a paper that we had a job, our assignment back in high school was to write a satirical paper, and we were given our topics, and mine was poor people and NASA research. I was like, how can I write a satirical paper about poor people and NASA research? And so I looked into it, and NASA was wanting more computing power for their research. And I took a hint from the Matrix here, and I said, hey, we can kill two birds with poor people by giving poor people a place to live, which is this giant warehouse owned by NASA, which we hook them up to a computer, and we use them as processing power for NASA. Be like making our own AI with people. Be terrible, but it's a fun satirical thing that I don't know made me this talking about AI made me think of that paper.
I do think we need robot AI overlords at this point. Humans fucking suck. They're terrible. All right, everybody. I'm gonna get going, which means Airmail's gonna get going because I'm hosting the stream. So that means
Oh,
we're gonna get going. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the stream today, because likes are important. If you hated it, though, you can dislike it too, because either way, it helps the channel out because it means people actually cared enough to like or dislike or interact. So either way, I win. So do whatever. So yeah, do that. You can subscribe, all that wonderful shit. Hopefully I'll be back soon. We'll talk about more shit. We'll play some video games. Who knows? Who knows what's next? But I'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
We're almost out. Hold on. Fucking bye-bye button. They moved it. Where's the bye-bye button? Holy shit, they've moved everything. Oh, here it is. Okay, now we're going.